Hey everyone, how is it going? It is Sunday! Yes, it is Sunday. The weekend is upon us. And it has been a cold one. Although I guess today wasn't quite as bad. It did get up into the upper 30s. And enough to start melting some of that snow and ice. I went out today and realized I should have cleared off my front steps. I cleared the driveway and the sidewalk and the lower steps, but I didn't clear all the way up to the top of the front door. So yeah, my mistake. It was iced over and not much I could do about it. Even pounding the shovel just sort of made a few ridges in the surface, which I guess is better than nothing since I probably won't slip on it. But yeah, so I thought today's design would be cool to do for the cold weather, even though Parzival from Ready Player One isn't about cold weather, but the cool blues. Yeah, I sort of modified it. I didn't really do the Parzival design per se. Made it a little bit more abstract and tribal, but that was what it was based on. And I had been thinking for a while of my education growing up, and when it's time to select a college, I got my degree in engineering, and I really knew nothing about what an engineer was from my school education, and don't know why it's saying I'm not getting any data through. As far as I know, I still have internet connection, so we'll just keep going. So in grade school, in high school, we had science classes. In grade school, I know we did some chemistry experiments. We dissected an earthworm, and we might have dissected a frog. I don't remember if we did a frog in 8th grade or if that was just in high school. But yeah, so I had the basic science education background, and when I was picking my degree major and thinking I was going to get a degree in engineering, I'm like, I really have no idea what an engineer is, what an engineer does. And people said, well, if you like math and you like science, you'll like engineering. But no one could really explain what an engineer did, who he was, what engineering was all about. It was a decade later when the acronym STEM was created, which refers to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And that is used to introduce students to science and technology and engineering to help them become interested in one of those fields as far as a job or career is concerned. But I didn't have that benefit growing up in high school, in grade school. We just had science. And the reason I chose engineering, because I liked science. I liked watching 3-2-1 Contact in Nova, in Scientific American Frontiers, in other Bill Nye the Science Guy, other stuff on TV that was science related. I was good at math. I wanted to be an astronaut. So all those seemed to indicate engineering might be a good fit for me, but no, I had no idea what an engineer was. So fast forward a few years to my senior year and my grad school experience in engineering. And I was working with one of the professors who, excuse me, who was interested in improving engineering education. At the time, engineering education engineering in general was a very male-dominated field, and education was classroom lectures. You learned math equations, you learned how to calculate different engineering principles. He was doing one of these senior level labs where we had equipment to experiment on. We had a distillation column, we had a heat exchanger, and other stuff like that, all perfectly fine for an engineer to work with. And we could do experiments on the equipment and see what goes in, see what comes out. But those a heat exchanger, if you've never seen one, is just a metal device. It's really a metal box, a metal cylinder. It's got some pipes going in, some pipes going out. This one was steam based, so we had some pressurized steam that was the heating source for the heat exchanger, and we had cold water, tap water, room water for the other side that we were trying to heat up. And you can't see inside a heat exchanger. It's just a steel set of pipes. You can measure temperatures and pressures with various sensors, so you have some idea that something is going on, and you can see that the water coming out is warmer than the water that you sent in. But beyond that, you're sort of limited on what you can do inside with any of these experiments. So he wanted to improve what we did as engineering students so we could sort of learn better. And he was working with some multimedia software, and I just got hooked on working with that software, creating some animations and demonstrations and other multimedia to support the lab experiments. So I stayed on for grad school and worked with him, and together we wrote some papers. We submitted some proposals to get some funding to do some what would eventually be called STEM education experiments for high school students and younger. And we had a few concepts of what kind of lessons we would teach to students to introduce the engineering principles. And one of the ones that always stuck out in my mind was our winter experiment. And it's half a thought experiment as much as it is a physical experiment. But a lot of kids know in the winter time they put on a hat, they put on gloves, they put on a winter coat before they go outside, and those things help keep them warm. So if you asked a child of various ages to describe their coat and why do you put on a coat, tell me about this coat you're wearing, they would say their coat is warm. Probably. That was our assumption, that most kids would claim their coat was nice and warm, it helped keep them warm. So here is the experiment to do. Build a snowman and put your coat on that snowman. What would happen? Well, if your coat really was warm, if it was a source of heat, it would melt that snowman. But your coat isn't warm. Your coat just keeps you warm. Your coat helps slow down heat transfer. Heat transfer is an engineering principle, and an engineer might have an equation to calculate how quickly heat is transferred based on a difference in temperature. So when it is 20 degrees outside and your body is 98 degrees and you step outside, how quickly will you freeze your butt off? And if you put on a winter coat, how much will that slow the heat loss so that you can stay warm and play outside for a long time? So back to that winter coat on the snowman. Since I said your coat itself is not warm, your coat is insulation. Your coat slows the transfer of heat. So if you put your coat on that snowman and it was a hot, sunny day, that coat would actually keep your snowman cooler. It would insulate him from the heat of the sun beating down upon him and help slow the melting process so he might last another day. So yeah, we had come up with a variety of experiments like that one to help introduce engineering principles. So we had other principles. Engineering is about separation. If you had a bag of M&Ms and you wanted to remove all of the green M&Ms, what would you do? How would you find and sort them so that you could pull the green M&Ms out? Engineering is all about that. So it's like if you have a bag of coins, they can sort the coins and separate the pennies, the nickels, the dimes, and quarters from one another. And they do that based on the size of the coin. The dime is the smallest coin, so it will fall through the smallest slots. And it will wind up in one container with just other dimes. The pennies are a little bit bigger. They're not going to fall through the dime slot. They're going to go into their own slot. So we're separating something based on a property of the element. And for pennies and nickels and dimes, it is their size, their thickness, their weight. If you're running a recycling plant, you could use magnets and pull the steel and the iron elements out from other pieces of recycling. You can use water in some elements of like plastics might be lighter than water and float on top while the heavier stuff sinks to the bottom. So yeah, the engineering is about using principles and applying them to accomplish a task. And nowadays, with the STEM education, kids have an opportunity to be introduced to engineering and technology in school and hopefully become inspired to become an engineer, to become a computer programmer, to become a technologist, and not just feel that they're limited to math and science, but introducing them to those different fields. And the hope is, in the future, engineers won't be largely male-dominated because, females, minorities, people of other genders and races have different perspective on things. So the more people you bring into the engineering field, the more background, the variety of experiences they've had, the more chance that someone is going to look at a solution, a problem differently and come up with a solution that other people had not thought of. So if all of your engineers were males, we'd have just male solutions because we only have life experiences of males. But if we also have females as engineers, we're going to double the opportunity that someone's going to solve a problem that hasn't been solved before. So that is really the importance of introducing people from a variety of backgrounds to science, technology, engineering, in hopes that they will be inspired to follow those career paths that have not historically been things that they have done on their own. So here is our balloon guy. We had our STEM education conversation, and I hope you learned a little and thought about a little bit about the importance of engineering education. So until next time, see you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile. Thanks for watching.